Oh, Lord, I could wait, and I surrender all to you. Lord, I could wait and give my will to you. Oh, Lord, I submit.
So much for that wonderful and meaningful song, and you ought to be commended for the fine way in which the rest of us have been joining in this song, singing praises and hymns to God, who alone is worthy to be praised. Now, I know the propensity of people once we've had a good meal, particularly this early in the evening. And so let me just start running as fast as I can, because I ain't even started yet, and I see that barbecue's already beat me to the punch on some of y'all's faces. And so I'll keep an eye on y'all, and once I see your head go that direction, we'll try to find the runway, all right? Listen, several months ago, my wife came to me and said, honey, car seems to be pulling to the left. And I said to her, well, just take it on down there to Tire Plus, and that's where I bought the tires from. Take it to Sam's and just get the tires rotated on it. I said, I think that's probably all it is. The tires are not yet a year old, so just take it down there and just have them to rotate the tires. She takes the car down there, and they put it up on one of these stands, and they tell her that, Miss, you need more than a rotation. And so she calls me and she said, now honey, the fellow down here said that I need more than a rotation. I said, no, girlfriend. They talk to men differently than they talk to women. He's trying to get over on you. I said, I tell you what, I'm just around the corner here, so I'll stop by. And sure enough, car's up on the lift, and he said to me, sir, your wife wants the tires rotated. And I said, no, I want them rotated, so just go on and rotate them. He said, sir, let me show you something. Took me to the car on the lift, and he says, now, I will do as you suggest. I'll rotate the tires. I mean, they're guaranteed that you bought the plan, that we can, once you pay for them, we'll rotate them, so that's no issue. He said, but that won't solve your problem. He said, and he showed it to me underneath the car, he said, your front end is out of alignment. Now, I can rotate your tires, and it'll get you where you need to go. But sooner or later, you're going to be right back in here, because your problem is not one of rotation. Your front end is out of alignment. May I suggest to you that when we look around our world today, we see a lot of wear and tear. There's a lot of wear and tear on women who are being misused, abused, or neglected. Why? It's not a rotation issue. It's an alignment issue. And what I want to suggest to you tonight is, what we want to try to do is to get a clear understanding of what it means to be rightly aligned with God. I go so far as to suggest that there's a lot of wear and tear on children who are being abused, forgotten, misled, or even turned loose. Now, I'm not accusing any of you, and I don't want you to feel guilty of any of this, unless, of course, you are guilty. Now, we're guilty then, of course, when we learn better, we plan to do what? We plan to do better. I would suggest to you that there are a lot of wear and tear on churches because we have men who are out of alignment. Now, I want you to watch this. If a man is out of alignment with God's prescription for kingdom manhood, it not only messes him up, but it can also mess up anyone or everyone else who comes into contact with him, especially if they fall under his authority. There's a river in New York City. Donald is going to be too familiar with this river. It's the Hudson River that runs through New York City, at one point actually separating Manhattan from the New Jersey border. I want you to watch this about the Hudson. It is one of only a few rivers in all of the world that runs in two directions. While tides from the Atlantic moved the river northward, the origin of the river at Lake Tyr, the Clouds, also moves the currents southward. While tides from the Atlantic moved the river northward, same thing. Watch this. Before being named the Hudson River, it was called by a local American Indian tribe, Hik-Canuck, which means, watch this, the river that flows in two directions. That's what the Indians called it. The river that flows in two directions. Life has a way of also flowing in both directions. It depends on whether a man will responsibly rule in the realm that he has been assigned, or irresponsibly abrogate his responsibility. Now remember this? January 2009, birds flew straight into the engines of U.S. Airways Flight 1549 immediately after the plane's takeoff, simultaneously shutting down both engines. The pilot, Captain Chesley B. Sullenberger III, had to make a decision. The airport wasn't close enough for landing, so Sullenberger's only option was to ditch the plane in the Hudson. This is the point I'm trying to drive at. See, it's called the river that flows in two directions. But what I'm trying to suggest to you tonight is, when a man is rightly ruling in the realm assigned to him, he'll always make responsible decisions. Watch this. While with two engines out and nowhere else for the plane to go, Sullenberger took charge of the rail for which he was responsible. Against the backdrop of passengers crying out for someone to bring order to the chaos, Sullenberger, in a few quick adjustments, kept the plane just high enough to fly over the George Washington Bridge, and did what few pilots have ever attempted to do. He ditched the plane in the river. And all 155 souls on board survived because one man, properly aligned, took charge of the realm for which he had responsibility. But remember the name of the river. It's the river that flows in two directions. We just saw safety on the Hudson. Now I want us to see tragedy on the Hudson. Remember, it's the river that flows in two directions. On a cold April 2011 day, a 25-year-old woman abandoned, and broken by the neglect or the mistreatment of the man or men in her life. Loaded up all 4 kids in her van and drove straight into the freezing waters of Same River. Because it's the river that flows in 2 directions. At age 15, LaShonda Armstrong had her first child. Within a few more years, she added 3 more children, giving each child their father's last name, Pierre, as their middle name. It was a heritage that shouldn't have been passed on. The children's father, John Pierre, didn't marry their mother. He had been arrested for not paying child support for months on end. Another time he was arrested when their 2-year-old son, having been left in his custody at his apartment completely alone, wandered out on a frigid February night. Police eventually found the toddler at 1:15 a.m. crying near a busy street, partially dressed in wet clothing. But on a cold April 2011 day, she posted an apology on Facebook, calling her mother, grandmother, and father to say goodbye. Loaded up all 4 kids in her van and drove straight into the freezing waters of the river that flows in 2 directions. As the van began to sink, her 10-year-old struggled to open the locked doors, or rolled down a window while the younger kids cried out in fear. He was able to squeeze himself out of a window before the van went under. He later told police that his mom had gathered all of the kids around her, held them, and said, "If I am going to die, you are going to die with me." He also indicated that his stepdad and mother had fought over his cheating shortly before the murder-suicide. Now, some people have blamed this young mother for her actions. And I won't even excuse her of her actions, because her actions were horrific. But a shared blame